Today, we're diving into the incredible story of how one of the world's most popular sports was invented, not out of a love for the game, but out of pure, desperate necessity.
It really all comes down to this one question. How did two ordinary fruit baskets, nailed to a gym wall, end up giving birth to a global phenomenon? Well, the answer is a fantastic story of ingenuity born from total chaos.
So to get this, you have to go back in time with me, all the way to 1891. Picture this. You've got these long, cold winters, a classroom full of rowdy young men, and absolutely no safe way for them to burn off all that energy indoors. That was the problem schools were facing.
And that brings us to our first section here, a problem that quickly became a challenge. The goal wasn't just to create a new game, it was to invent an entirely new kind of game. And the rules he had to follow, they were everything. I mean, you can just imagine the chaos, right? Students are cooped up inside for months, and all that pent-up energy is just turning into fights and brawls. The indoor games they already had were basically as rough as football, which meant injuries were happening all the time. The need was crystal clear. They had to have a sport that was safe enough for a gymnasium, but was still competitive and, actually fun. And this is where our hero comes in, Dr. James Naismith. Now, he wasn't just some gym teacher. He was a true innovator, a Canadian PE instructor who passionately believed that sports were supposed to build character and teamwork, not cause more fights. So in December of 1891, Naismith's boss gave him this frankly insane challenge with an even crazier deadline: invent a brand new indoor game completely from scratch in just 2 weeks. And the list of requirements was really specific. It had to be an indoor game. It absolutely could not have any of the tackling and roughness of football. It had to be a game of skill, not just who is the strongest. And maybe most important of all, it had to be simple enough for anyone to learn quickly. So, with this huge challenge hanging over his head, where did Naismith find his big idea? Well, it wasn't in some old sports manual or a strategy book. Nope, it was in a simple memory from his own childhood.
He remembered this game he used to play called Duck on a Rock. The whole point was to knock a small stone off a bigger one by throwing another stone at it. And what Naismith recalled, the thing that stuck with him, was that a soft, arching throw was way more effective than a hard, straight one. It was all about accuracy over power. And that was the key.
And this is where that accuracy over power idea really becomes genius. Naismith knew that if the goal was on the ground, like in soccer or hockey, it would just encourage players to charge right at it, which would lead to collisions and injuries, the very thing he was trying to avoid. But by putting the goal up high, he completely changed the entire dynamic of the game. You couldn't just tackle your way to the goal. You had to use skill, finesse, and that gentle arc he remembered from being a kid. So, December 21st, 1891. It's time to test out this new invention. The first game ever was actually massive. There were 18 players in total, 9 on each side, just filling up the entire gym floor.
And yep, the stories are true. The goals were exactly what you've heard. 2 actual peach baskets that Naismith had the janitor nail to the gymnasium's balcony railing, which happened to be about 10 feet off the ground.
And they didn't even have a special ball for this new game. They just grabbed what was lying around, a soccer ball.
Okay, so after all that, the final score of the first ever game of basketball was 1-0. Just a single basket in the entire game. And why? Well, because every time someone actually scored, they had to literally stop the whole game and bring out a ladder to get the ball out of the basket. But what's so wild is that despite that incredibly slow, clunky start, the game was an immediate hit with the students, and it definitely did not stay in that one little gym in Massachusetts for very long. See, the secret to how it spread so fast was the YMCA network. Naismith worked at the YMCA International Training School, so all the teachers who learned the game there would then travel to other YMCAs all across America and even to other countries, and they took Naismith's 13 original rules with them. In about 10 years, it was already an international game.
Of course, the game they were playing back then, well, it looked pretty different from what we see on TV today. The game had to evolve, and that evolution came from players and coaches solving some very obvious problems. Just think about how 2 of the most iconic parts of the game came to be. Stopping the game constantly was obviously super annoying, so eventually they just cut a hole in the bottom of the basket. And that, of course, led to the modern net. And get this, the backboard wasn't originally for bank shots. Fans sitting in the balcony would literally reach over and swat shots away. So they put up a wooden board behind the basket as a barrier. to defend against the spectators.
But maybe the biggest evolution of all was one Naismith never even planned for. In his original 13 rules, dribbling was explicitly banned. You could only pass the ball from the spot where you caught it. But clever players found a loophole. They started bouncing the ball once to themselves to kind of reposition before they passed. This little player-led innovation became so popular that it was eventually legalized, and it totally revolutionized the game with speed, fast breaks, and individual skill.
From there, the game quickly started to get more official. It became an Olympic sport in 1936, which was a moment that apparently brought James Naismith himself to tears. Just a decade later, the NBA was formed, and they kept tweaking the game, introducing things like the three-point line in '79, which again changed everything. The sport just kept evolving.
This constant state of evolution really set the stage for legendary players who wouldn't just play the game, they would completely redefine it. Which brings us to the legends and the lasting legacy of basketball.
You know, it feels like every generation had a player who just pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible. Michael Jordan turned it into a global spectacle with his insane athleticism. Kobe Bryant perfected the technical skill with that relentless dedication. LeBron James redefined what a complete athlete could even be. And then you have Stephen Curry, who completely broke offensive strategy with his mastery of the three-point shot, which, when you think about it, is the ultimate evolution of Naismith's original idea of rewarding arc and accuracy.
And what about the inventor of it all? James Naismith never tried to get famous or rich from his creation. He never patented the rules, never made a dime from it. For him, the reward was just seeing people play the game. He truly, genuinely believed that sports should belong to everyone.
So just think about that for a second. A game that was born not for profit, not for glory, but to solve a simple problem, keeping a bunch of students from fighting in a gym. It started with nothing more than a teacher's clever idea, a soccer ball and 2 old peach baskets. And from that humble, practical beginning, it grew into one of the greatest, most beloved sports in human history. It's just an amazing testament to the power of a simple, good idea.